Welcome to Equine Assisted World. I'm your host, Rupert Isaacson, New York Times bestselling author of The Horse Boy, The Long Ride Home and The Healing Land. Before I jump in with today's guest, I just want to say a huge thank you to you, our audience, for helping to make this happen. I have a request. If you like what we do, please like, subscribe, tell a friend. It really helps us get this work done. As you might know from my books, I'm an autism dad. And over the last 20 years, we've developed several equine-assisted, neuroscience-backed certification programs. If you'd like to find out more about them, go to newtrailslearning.com. So without further ado, let's meet today's guest. Welcome back to Equine Assisted World. Okay, I've got Pebbles Turbeville here. She is the CEO of Horses and Humans Research Foundation. If you don't know about them, you should know about them, because I've known about them for about 15 years and I've watched them grow from something quite small to something quite a lot bigger. And what they do is they fund studies into what we all in the equine assisted world do, which means that those of us who then need to get funding for our own programs can look to the studies that Horses and Humans Research Foundation have funded and basically use that data to show that we don't suck. And as we know, those of us who've been in it for a while know that this has been a problem. I think for people that are coming in now, where equine assisted work is much more accepted, man, if you've been around 15, 20 years ago, like people would say, you guys just playing with ponies, you know? And we had to prove that what we were doing, well, okay, it was playing with ponies, but that playing with ponies was really, really good for the human. And like medically provably good. So Horses and Humans Research Foundation really got out ahead of this and got into the forefront of this early and have been, I'd say, blazing the trail. And not just that, but sort of, you know how a rising tide lifts all boats. They've been legitimizing us, I would say, for the last 15 or 20 years. So I want to shut up now and have Pebbles talk about what she does. But this is my big up, because people like Pebbles are out there working on our behalf. And, you know, we need to support them and know what they're doing. And also, if you've got really interesting studies that you could turn them on to, Pebbles is going to be all about it. So, all right, without further ado, Pebbles, welcome.
Thank you.
Who are you? What do you do? And why do you do it?
Well, thanks. That was a great introduction. I could talk about myself, but I really rather talk about HHRF, Horses and Humans Research Foundation. And I just need to jump in for a second and kind of give the honor to Molly Sweeney, our founder, because 20 years ago, she was volunteering at a program in Texas when you were there nearby. Yeah, Sire. And she saw, you know, those miracles that we see, or just small steps in people. And so she was like, how is this happening? And so her question, how, really started this whole organization. It's kind of interesting how with the H and the Horses and Humans, but yeah, in the sense that she wanted to know how the horses were actually helping. So she gathered some people in the industry together and decided, you know, we need to do something and fun and get research started. And so that happened 20 years ago. Here we are now. And she was really ahead of her time in some
Why
sense.
was Molly doing this? Was she an academic? Like, why did she have this idea to crunch the
No,
numbers?
it was all about being a volunteer. I mean, she loves horses. She grew up, her whole family was involved with horses, had horses. Her children have horses, her grandchildren ride. They all have this affection and bond with horses. But when she actually saw those kids, you know, speak for the first time or be able to walk better, all of those benefits that we see from equine assisted services, she was like, okay, so how does this work? How is this happening? And that's why she wanted to start getting research behind it. So like you said, it wasn't just a pony ride. It really was therapeutic as well as therapy with those therapists. So
Right, but I suspect I'm the journalist in me wants to dig now.
Okay.
There are lots of people who 20 years ago were volunteering at therapeutic riding places and who had family, involvement with horses and were curious. But not everybody went the extra mile like Molly did to like create an organization and look for funding and so on and so on. Why was she the person that did that?
I think she's just one of those people in the sense that she has a brilliant mind and she is an innovator. She has that intuition piece,
Mm,
brilliant mind. She loves physics. I can't even fathom physics. I mean,
I
but
love it in theory. I admire it, but yes, I hear you.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, she's just kind of ahead of her time, and she wants to know. She's got those questions.
So she reached out and found people to support this endeavor. Was that all initially in Texas? And who did she talk to? And why do you think why was it that she could persuade them to go, yeah, look, we'll give you some money to figure this out?
I think she contacted a variety of people. Casey Henry was the first executive director. She was the executive director of Fieldstone Farm before she was of HHRF. So she had grown a small program into is probably one of the top three in the United States right now. And she got Pat Mullins, who was in Markel Insurance. She got some physical therapists as well as some psychologists. She got a variety of people who were immersed into EAS at that time that were also influential in that area, but also realized that they were movers and shakers. They were gonna if they believed in what Molly was gonna propose, or and they they if they saw that dream, they were gonna make it happen, and they did. And so having that variety of people also set the organization up the right way.
Yeah. So what
So
was, go ahead, sorry, I don't want
I
to.
was about to say, so like, for example, we give out research funds for research about how horses are helping humans. And it was, we have a scientific advisory council. So our kind of foundation was also patterned after Michael J. Fox's Parkinson's Foundation, because they looked around and said, who's doing this type of research and what are some models that we could look at? So that was one of the examples. And so when we make a call for our grant, we have advisors who are specialists in certain areas, but they all do research and they evaluate those grant applications and they're evaluated and then they move up the tiers. Now we've changed the process, or I should say tweaked it a bit in the past couple of years. It used to come that paper applications came to the board and they looked at them and had a discussion and made a decision. But now we actually have the applicants this past year do a PowerPoint presentation, a walkthrough video of the facility that they'll be using for their research so we can make sure that it's appropriate and safe.
Very wise. Very
And
wise.
then once those two, so the board has a chance to watch those presentation and videos, and then we schedule times with them where we actually have a Q&A session.
It's Shark Tank, basically.
Yes, exactly. And
But
that's what happened.
it's so wise, Pebbles, because in the early days of Horseboy, when we were naive, we still probably are naive, but we're just getting less so now. We trained like loads of people, and we assumed that they had the same horse knowledge more or less that we did. We assumed that their horse care was pretty good. We assumed, and we got egg on our face a couple of times, and then we're like, oh, we need an evaluation process. And it's really interesting. As soon as we started asking people to show on video the environment they're working in, their horses, how they keep their horses, all of that, not to mention the therapy work. So interesting. You'd get a certain number would just like disappear right there. And then you realize, yeah, the really good people don't mind. The really good people actually see the value of jumping through those hoops because they want to ensure the quality as well. Right. That's what we should do. And now it's interesting when we are giving trainings and we say, well, you can't be a practitioner until you go through this evaluation process. It's very interesting sometimes when some people react negatively to that. You're like, well, then probably you're not right for this job because,
Right.
there's a lot of details to be aware of. So I'm very glad that you did that.
I want to say something about
Yeah.
what you said just now about Shark Tank, which is really funny. So when I first started with HHRF in 2020, and I was part-time because I was working on my dissertation myself. And so then the job has evolved to now where I'm actually a full-time employee. But when I thought giving away money was going to be easy, like the easiest part of my job. Like you get a grant, you get a grant, you get a grant. Like that could be Oprah kind of thing.
Right. And
But
and how lovely would that feel? Yeah.
exactly. But it has been the hardest part of my job. And part of it is like the first year that we had grant applications, we had 2 come to the board, and the Scientific Advisory Council said these are the 2 highest rating ones, but we don't feel great about either one. So I was like, so I did give a grant that year. The next year we had one. I called them up and said, hey, you're the winner. And they didn't have the participants. So
Okay.
I said, give me some time. Let's help you get some participants. Couldn't get enough.
Wow. When you
So
actually have to push a boulder uphill to give
yeah,
people money. That's
yeah,
bizarre. Yeah.
yeah. So that one was out. So the next time I was like, I think there was something else happened. And I was like, y'all are killing me. I cannot give away
Mm,
money. And that's what our purpose is to
mm.
fund research. So our board president said, well, why don't we do something really quick and fast and do it like Shark Tank? And I was like, what? I'm like, we can't do Shark Tank. And he's like, sure we can.
It's
And
actually a good idea though.
we'll
Yeah.
have them like in a room and compete. And I'm like, okay, liking this concept, but let's take it back a notch. So what we did was, like I said, the first time was I gave them a list of questions and said, okay, want you to present on this, and we'll have a Q&A session afterwards, and gave them 20 minutes each. We found out that became a little long. So we tweaked it this year and said, yeah, send in these videos and answer these questions, and then we'll do a Q&A with you. So it all worked out. And it honestly, I mean, it's really showed us who's really kind of passionate about it and who really understands what
Yeah.
they're actually going to do. Because there was one at one point in time that we were like, I didn't feel confident that they were confident in what they were going to do.
Mm, mm.
So it really is interesting having a main
Yeah.
person.
I'm sure you do it this way too. Like we don't do our evaluation process like real Shark Tank in that it's not like impress us or we'll tell you to F off.
Yeah.
It's more that if there's obvious red flags, well then hey, but we've obviously put, checks and balances into place to try to be more aware of that like before we get to that point. But what we do with our evaluations is if we feel that somebody is really got their heart in the right place but lacking knowledge, then we'll say, look, we can't pass your evaluation now, but we like what you're doing. We know that you're coming from a good place here. If you will work with us to show you how to do it right, and even if it takes you 2-3 years, are you down with that? And then we can get you through your evaluation. And it's interesting, the really committed people are like, yes, of course, thank you for the mentorship. And the people who don't feel that way deselect.
Yeah.
When you are doing this, is that sort of how you do it? Would you work with people to a certain degree, get them to where, or given that you're giving away money, is it trickier? You kind of need them
Yeah.
to arrive a bit more ready.
Yeah. Because we're very strong about, our integrity and keeping it straight, that if, like I said, if they come to the table and they don't have enough information, or don't have, if the scientific advisory council doesn't give them a stamp, then no, we can't. But like sometimes, for example,
but can you say to them, here's what you need to do
yes,
to be worthy, do these things and then come back to us?
yeah, we do give them back there or give them some feedback from the scientific advisors. So they do get some feedback no matter who they are in the process. So that helps. And it's difficult too, I will say, because, we get, almost 30 applications all over the world. Let me back up because we are international and we have fun internationally. Germany, France, Canada, several times, as well as America. So we get applications all over the world, but I can only give out one. So it makes it difficult, especially when you know people who apply and you have to send them a letter or call them and say, I'm sorry, you're just not that top one, and it's all confidential. I can't,
Right.
say, well, this or that. But I will say in this last grant cycle that we had 3 really good ones. And I let the other 2 know that if something happens to the person who's supposed to accept, if something happens, we might be coming back to see if we could work something out, or
Perhaps they should
or resubmit or something in that area, just because they were that good or close to being the winning grant. So that, that does happen.
Okay, so what I'd love to do is I want to talk to you about equine welfare.
Okay.
Because, obviously in Horseboy, this is a huge deal for us. And I'd like to also talk to you about some of your best projects to date. But before that, I know you don't want me to ask you about this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I want to know how you got involved in this in the first place. I want to talk a little bit about Pebbles. Why are you called Pebbles anyway?
Well, you have to watch the Flintstones to be able to know the name. But basically, I was born and my mom was going to name me, her name was Barbara. I was going to be Barbara. And my brother was very disappointed in the fact that I was a girl. And he said I should be able to name him. So I'm going to, she was going to name me Babs. And he was like, well, I want to call her Bam Bam. And because he was a big Flintstone fan. So they were like, thank goodness my older sisters were like, no, she's a girl. You need to call her something else. And he said, well, Pebbles.
You could have gone through your whole life with a bone through your hair, though. I mean, it might have been really cool to be Bam Bam.
And honestly, Bam Bam fits me better because I've been blonde.
Cool, yeah.
I know, and I'm stronger than the average woman. So yeah, but I was named Bam Bam. I mean Pebbles. And so here's a little funny trivia for you. I have 3 diplomas and 3 different names. So my undergraduate is Barbara Turbeville, and my master's degree was with my married name, which was Barbara Heydrich. And then I got rid of him and his name. I legally changed it and became Dr. Pebbles Turbeville.
I love that. What are you a doctor in, Pebbles? What are you Dr. Pebbles of?
I'm actually in sports management with an emphasis in leadership, mainly because when I started down this road, the United States Sports Academy was the only university higher ed that was online completely. And that was eons ago. Now everybody is. Right. But so I kind of went that sports management route just because, and I'm not a sports fan, which is really funny. I could care less about professional or
looking like an academic.
Yeah. Because I'm really more interested in the recreational aspects, not the competition, the health aspect,
piece. The brain aspect in a weird way. Yeah.
Yeah. And part of that, but like I'm more recreational more than sports, I should say.
Recreational rather than competitive.
Correct. Yeah. And it's sort of like, Dr. Helen Sharp, I just reached out with her to help me because I had this concept because I used to
Quick pause.
Okay.
Dr. Helen Sharp, I don't think we have a link down below, but scroll back, lads, through our interviews. We did a thing with Dr. Helen Sharp. She's rad. You need to know Dr. Helen Sharp. Okay, go on. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good point. A good shout out. So I used to teach sports. Going back to where I used to teach sports management, equine studies, therapeutic horsemanship classes. And I just had this concept about how I'm going to sidebar for a second here, like you did, about how horses help humans. And I used to teach a wellness class, and we used to talk about wellness and the 8 dimensions of wellness. And some of those dimensions change depending on who who wrote it and who's doing what. But I
Yeah.
was like,
What are they?
this is what really horses do. So if you look at, one is emotional wellness.
Okay.
They help with anxiety, depression, our self-esteem. Physical wellness, improving balance, coordination,
Okay.
stronger muscles. Social wellness, improving social skills, empathy, teamwork. Spiritual wellness, being mindful, present, you know, environmental wellness. We just talked about that whole aspect of nature, being around land. Occupational wellness, and that can be from job
Mm.
skills, career development, and nutritional wellness, which is a little bit of a stretch, but there are some studies. All this is, again,
It's good
back.
for us to eat horses. Sorry, I'm just kidding.
No, no. Nutritional wellness, as far as like improved body image, there's a lot of like support for recovery for people with eating disorders,
Mm.
but healthier lifestyles as far as
Mm.
like being able to eat, nutritionally better, agriculture, education, just movement supports nutrition. So anyway, I was struggling with this article, and I kind of like turned over what I had to Helen, and then she did this beautiful job of writing it up. But it is true, like horses help us in all those different dimensions.
Yeah, they're good for us.
Mhm.
This we
So,
know.
yeah,
All
that
right.
takes it.
So you become a PhD in non-competitive sport management.
So it's a EDD. It's a doctorate of education.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you end up with the Horses in Humans Research Foundation?
Okay. So I taught at St. Andrews University for
In
almost 20
Scotland.
years. And it was in Laurinburg, North Carolina,
Okay.
but it was in Scotland County. So it was
Okay.
very much
Okay.
a sister city. And we had a strong equestrian program there. And
Okay.
we actually had a therapeutic horsemanship degree, 4-year
Okay.
degree.
Wow,
And
that was ahead of
so,
its time. Yeah.
again, it was, yeah. And I taught there and kind of departed just because of administration. It was just changing, and I was not happy. And so 2020 was like that year of evaluation, where you want to be in life with the pandemic going on. So I was like, no, I'm going to take a sabbatical from life and finish up my dissertation, because I don't have time to do it, because I was teaching multiple classes and running a program, etc. So I left, and ironically, the college or university has closed now. It's one of those liberal arts college that has fallen. But so that's when I was on the development committee with HHRF, and they didn't have an executive director. So I was like, hey, I can do it part time while I'm working on my dissertation. I haven't like worked as an executive director in a long time, but we could do it part time and do it as intermediate, just to see if this is something that would be good for both of us. And 3 months in, we were sold. So I was like a kid in the candy store, because I felt like there were so many things we needed to fix and to grow the organizations. And part of it was we were giving out a grant like once a year for research, and then that was it. So you raise money, give out a grant, and then you just kind of twiddle your thumb waiting for the results to come in, because that didn't happen overnight. Usually takes a year or two. So we were like, we need to do something with education, because people don't understand research. There's a disconnect between researchers' language versus a practitioner's language. The practitioner doesn't embrace it, doesn't understand it. And also it changes all the time, because research builds upon each other. It changes. So yeah, that's how we started with the education program, and started doing a webinar once a month. That became really great. Everybody was receptive. It was changing between educational topics to equine well-being topics. And then all of a sudden we got everybody wanted to do two. So we do two a month. These are free.
Okay.
We offer, again, we have them, we record them, put them on YouTube channel. They're evergreen. We have over 1,000 subscribers now. The views on them range all over the place from a couple hundred to a couple thousand, depending on the topic and the speaker.
Okay, so you get involved, you start the interesting process of giving out money for studies, you open up the education side. Give me how many years you're in now? 5 years, almost 6. Give me your highlights of the grants that you've given out. I mean, honestly, that's probably each year. And talk to me about what studies have you funded in that time and why are you excited about them?
Wow. Well, let me back up. Because of the fact that I came on during the pandemic, that was also a tough time, because we had a research study that was going on, but they had to hit the pause button because of COVID and having to be able to wait for it. So that was part of, and that actually was with University of Prince Edward Island with Dr. Lori McDuff. And that was a veteran study. That the great part about that study was not only were they looking at the veterans, but they were also, because Lori McDuffie is actually a veterinarian, but her cohort, Dr. William Mopar, was actually the human side. So he was looking at the changes with the veterans, and she was looking at the changes with the horses. So I think that was one of our first ones that really looked at both. And then from there, like I said, from the beginning, it was hard giving out money. So there was a bit of a gap, because once we went through 2020 and we had some money to give away, we didn't have the studies, they didn't have the participants. So it took a while. So we did our first innovative grant, which was given to Baylor University, where Dr. Beth Lanning used this new equipment, functional near infrared spectrometry. I can't say the word. Spectrometry.
Try.
Biggie. Spectrometry.
Spectrometry?
Or no, it's not T. It's scope. So
spectroscope.
Yes, it's actually I like the abbreviation. Let's just call it the FNIS.
FNI what? Sorry.
FNIS.
FNIS.
Yeah. So it's a wearable apparatus that looks at the brain. It scans your brain, not the
sort of like an EEG that you wear while riding.
Correct, but it looks at the top layer of your brain and what changes are going on. Okay. And I feel really embarrassed. I can't say that.
Well, that would be the cortex that's on the top. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was an innovative study. And the great part was it was really kind of a brainstorm that kind of came out of one of the conferences that we had. So we had a conference and some of these researchers got together and they were like, oh, what if we did this, that? And it was like interdisciplinary. All of them were like from different schools and they just chatted about it. And then all of a sudden they were like, so Dr. Lanning applied for the innovative study, and actually the innovative study was $10,000. And that piece just helped them use 2 sites because it was travel funds.
I could see that from what the work that we do at Horseboy. Frequently a $10,000 grant makes a difference between us being able to like send a couple of people to a couple of places to gather some information, to crunch numbers, to, it's interesting. It often doesn't actually take as much money as people think it does. So I think these types of small grants are actually really good, because what they do is that they give you a kickoff. And then, as you know, larger foundations will often give you a matching grant,
Hmm.
so if you can go and get like that innovative grant for 10K, maybe someone's giving you a matching grant for 50K. Well, then you're a fifth of the way there, right? So yeah.
And actually, it was the reverse for us because they already had a big grant. They needed the little innovative grant to help them with travel funds. So it helped them. But as you said, because it was an innovative grant and they were just kind of trying it out, see if it would work, then it allowed them to, one of the investigators who was on that innovative study, Dr. Corey Smith, applied, and he's doing the same type of work or same type of mechanism, but he's using it with children with autism.
Okay.
So, and it's
Cordy
a
or Gordy? Gordy Smith.
Corey,
Corey.
C, yeah,
Dr. Corey Smith. Is
Cory.
that a man or a woman?
It's a man. Mhm.
Okay, I'm just going to quickly Google while you're talking. Please keep going. If you're in the equine assisted field, or if you're considering a career in the equine assisted field, you might want to consider taking one of our 3 neuroscience-backed equine assisted programs. Horseboy Method, now established for 20 years, is the original equine assisted program specifically designed for autism, mentored by and developed in conjunction with Dr. Temple Grandin and many other neuroscientists. We work in the saddle with younger children, helping them create oxytocin in their bodies and neuroplasticity in the brain. It works incredibly well. It's now in about 40 countries. Check it out. If you're working without horses, you might want to look at movement method, which gets a very, very similar effect, but can also be applied in schools, in homes. If you're working with families, you can give them really tangible exercises to do at home that will create neuroplasticity when they're not with you. Finally, we have Takhin equine integration. If you know anything about our programs, you know that we need a really high standard of horsemanship in order to create the oxytocin in the body of the person that we're working with, child or adult. So this means we need to train a horse in collection, but this also has a really beneficial effect on the horse's well-being. And it also ends your time conflict where you're wondering, oh my gosh, how am I going to condition my horses and maintain them and give them what they need, as well as serving my clients? Takhin equine integration, aimed at a more adult client base, absolutely gives you this.
Okay. Well, you could just go to our website and go under the research tab and funded, and you can see all the funded studies that we've done. And
Okay.
he's at the top. And then you could also say the word that I cannot say. But anyway, so he's doing a 10-week manual-based therapeutic riding intervention with horses using this equipment. But he's also having the horses wear equipment so that they can measure their heart rate, and so that we know how it's affecting the horses. So
Okay.
all of our studies now, too, the board has decided that not only when we fund the human side, we want to fund the horse side. So we want people to look at both. And part
Absolutely.
of it is that equine well-being piece.
Which is where I wanted to go next.
Okay.
Um,
Now, but I can get you there.
yeah,
In
go
the
ahead.
sense that, again, Molly being Molly and ahead of her time, 5 years ago, she was like, I think we need to do an equine well-being committee and just really focus on how we can make our horses healthier and happier. So with that, she started the equine well-being committee, and we implemented the 5 domains that Dr. David Mahler and his associates had created. So we were kind of a little bit of ahead of our time at that point in time too,
What
because
are those 5 domains?
I'd be glad to tell you. So one is, it's kind of similar to the dimensions that I was telling you about wellness,
Mm-hmm.
but they're 5, which anyway, one is nutrition. The second one is physical environment.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 is general health concerns. 4 is behavior. And the 5th is the mental state, which really it all kind of comes together as far as the whole mental state aspect. But, it's really interesting because you come up and, we were just talking about riding lessons and things about how traditional things were. You have these strip pieces of land, pasture, you put your horses on it, and you think your horses are going to be happy. Well, that typically is not what wild horses are happy about. They roamed around and land and the woods and the pastures, and that's part of that whole physical environment is having that place for them to be able to roam and explore and, look around, see obstacles, be in the shade, be in the sun, that, that, we don't
Deal with slopes,
traditionally.
deal with rocks, deal with different things underfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Different wildlife coming through. Yeah.
Yeah. And what we do is just strip the land, put some grass on it, put them out there.
Yeah.
And a fence, and they really need that stimulation, enrichment piece. It's sort of like what things I do with my dog. Instead of just giving him a treat, I throw him around the room and make him hunt for him. As far as that's part of his enrichment that he gets. Yeah. So implementing those 5 domains, and it's just part of it kind of going back to the education piece. Okay, yeah, we have these 5 domains, but how do you put them into practice? So again, that comes back to our piece of education, saying that here we go, that, we have these 5 domains, but how do we implement them? How do we put them into practical use? So that's part of it. And we just had a webinar with a farm, Fieldstone Farm, when I was just mentioning a while ago, that they had a turnover in staff. So the new barn manager was like, okay, well, before I go into the old routine, let's look at and evaluate our horses. And they had some horses that were sour, biting, not happy. So they looked at all the 5 domains. They didn't realize it was. They didn't know it was the 5 domains, but it was. And they made changes with their vet and their farrier. And sure enough, not only did it save them money, which is not always was, a lot of people will perk up when you say save them money, but yeah, their horses are happier. They're not biting anymore. They're not sour. They're happy to do their jobs. They have horses that had to have an extra trained volunteer can be led now with an intermediate or a new volunteer because the horse is like, okay, let's go. I'm happy now. So I think that piece too of implementing this new research that's so, and it should be really new, is on 2020, that's 5 years ago, but implementing these pieces so that our horses are healthier and happier are going to help all humans too.
Right. No, I so agree. I mean, one of the things which our organization is foundation for us is if the horse does not have well-being in itself, it cannot give well-being to a human. It just can't. I can't give well-being to you if I don't have well-being. Mm-hmm. So if I, run myself ragged with jet lag, which I currently am, I have a limited ability to give to you. If you let me sleep for, a couple of days and, get into my groove, that goes up. But it's, of course, much more than this. And one of the things which I've often been a bit puzzled by in the past is because I grew up very much in the kind of hunting, eventing world. Mm-hmm. Now I'm kind of known as this dressage guy because of the connection with collection and oxytocin, which helps people feel better and speak. So I ended up coming in through the back door to dressage, but that's not where I began my equine life at all. And what we really emphasized was fitness. And fitness wasn't just cardiovascular. It was tendons. So the whole frame of the horse had to stand up to, planet Earth. And it was also mental emotional, meaning that if you're out on a hunt somewhere, and you end up in some funky situation, your horse has to be kind of like, yeah, sure, I can deal with that. Yeah. Yeah, no worries. Rather than, oh my God, it's, a fire truck, or it's something I haven't seen before. The horse is like, even if it's something I haven't seen before, I kind of trust you, my monkey, my sky monkey sitting on me, that you wouldn't put me in a position that was unreasonable. So, okay, I'll give this a whirl. And I was really amazed when I entered the therapeutic riding arena that this was not prioritized at all. None of these
Mhm.
things were, right? As long as all was required was the horse is quiet. Right. And it didn't matter if he was limping. It didn't matter if he was sore in the back. It didn't matter if he was biting his handler. And frequently what I noticed was they would usually cut a break to the special needs person on their back, but they would take it out on the person who was leading. They had to put it somewhere, right? And when I first began to ask therapeutic riding places about this, like, where's your fitness program? Where's your enrichment program? Where's your lunging and in-hand program? Where's your yoga program for the horse, effectively?
Mhm.
They'd be like, F off. Like, they would meet me with a kind of an aggression. And it was the same aggression that I got met by when I was dealing with the non-horse world of therapy, with behavioral therapy, when I was like, well, this kid's obviously unhappy. Why don't we change something about what we're doing here? Because if I was in a round pen with a horse and it was like trying to climb out through the window, effectively the fence, which a lot of these kids do in those types of sessions, I'd change something, because if I don't, I might die.
Right.
Right. So, and then I get greeted with this kind of, well, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not a professional. No, 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 no. And I'm like, oh, I see. So you need to get aggressive with me now. Ooh, why do you get aggressive? Well, people get aggressive when they're afraid of something. What are you afraid of? You must know deep down that your shtick doesn't really work. So what's interesting to me is that that's now changing. And I think it's fair to say that in the therapeutic equine assisted environment, people are now much, much more concerned with equine assisted. Sorry, with fitness and equine well-being. But there can still be a disconnect, I feel, because many people who get interested or attracted to equine assisted work don't necessarily come from very strong horse backgrounds. They might or they might not. They might come in with a set of philosophies about what horses are, think, and feel, which might or might not be borne out. And then suddenly people are in a sort of debate. Whereas, as you say, you can bring it back to some very simple things, which is, are you okay in your gut? Are you okay in your living conditions? Do you have friends? Do you have some freedom of movement? Are you fit? Are you supple? Do you feel like good? Or do you feel like, ooh, stiff? Because, of course, our best therapy horses, our best equine assisted horses, are usually going to be seniors, because they're the ones with the accrued experience that, just like good professionals of any species. So now that you are aware of this, are you taking it? Where are horses and humans taking it now? Those of us who know our work know that we are big on lunging, in hand work, and long reining, because we know that we can kind of reverse age and rehab messed up horses that get given as donation horses. And, we can often assuage their old injuries and help them out. Are you looking at this kind of thing as well? How are you developing, I guess, from this basic five things to further things to sort of try to ensure equine well-being as best you can?
Yeah. With that said, a little sidebar, Christina Wilkins does a course on the five domains that I've taken, and I highly suggest it.
Who is Christina Wilkins? Tell us about Christina Wilkins.
She actually worked with David Mahler, and she does Horses and People magazine. She's in Australia.
Okay, I'm
Um,
looking her up right now.
it's
Christina Wilkins.
yes,
Hmm.
and the reason she does a lot with equitation science,
Okay.
so you can probably find her with that, and it's CRISTINA. She's a PhD candidate that she really had, to me, she's super smart. But Christina Wilkins does a 5 domains course that I highly suggest. And it's not that expensive. I think it's like maybe $120 or $140.
Mm-hmm.
But after taking it, there's just so much material in it. I kind of feel like I need to go back and take it again because she does an excellent job of teaching it.
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah. So and I think that's the other thing too, Rue, is about why we do podcasts. And we don't want to say we are the only ones who are doing this. We want everyone to know these are really great people. These are great resources, sharing and caring and just letting the world know all these different places that you can find information and research. But I think part of what we do now is try to implement these through our webinars. For example, we just had one yesterday about Mustangs. She was great. And I think a lot of it is like with Mustang training, you have to watch behavior and not a lot of sort of kind of taking a step back. Not a lot of people watch behavior. And maybe you and I grew up around horses. So we kind of, I don't know about you, but I think I was like very regimental, British kind of drill teams. This go fox hunting, you go show hunting, blah, blah, blah. I really didn't.
Oh, yeah, no, I totally grew up with all that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I really didn't get into watching behavior. I really started most of that journey in the past 20 years. But I feel like that's a piece of horsemanship that all of us should have and all of us should know. And that's like part of our educational pieces is to have that out there. So we do that through webinars. We also do that through our conference. For the example, our conference in 2026, we're having our first pre-conference horse fair day that is all about being at the barn and doing things with horses on February 27th. And then
where's that going to be?
It's in Kissimmee, Orlando, Florida.
Okay. And when in February is that?
It's February 27th is our pre-conference. And then our conference is actually February 28th and March 1st.
Interesting. I'm going to be in Florida around that time.
You need to come.
I will absolutely come. Yeah.
And our keynote speaker is Dr. Stephen Peters.
Wonderful man.
Yeah, he did our excellent job being a keynote speaker for us last year, to the point where I was like, who do we get to top that? So I asked him to come back.
Excellent choice.
And we have a track. We have 3 tracks. One is for researchers or research or current research. One is on equine well-being, all dedicated to equine well-being. And then the other one in the middle is program. So sometimes, we have things that are just for program people or trying a new program or don't really fit in research, but don't fit in equine well-being. So they're kind of in the middle. So that's where we kind of dedicate our work. And there's some programs I think that we're going to start to develop and work with other organizations that are working with horses with youth. So hopefully they're just in the creative stage. We'll see how.
Can you tell us who some of those are, or do you want to keep that quiet for
now? We'll wait and see how it goes.
Okay, fine.
But yeah.
So you're really building up this equine well-being piece. By the way, I have to do a shout out to her. I have a proposition for you for a keynote, maybe for the next year.
Okay.
Joelle Dunlap.
Okay.
Square Peg Foundation, California. The last 25 years, mostly rehabbing thoroughbreds off the track and polo ponies, putting them through a classical in-hand and long-reining program and getting the most extraordinary results. And now they've got 2 campuses near San Francisco, and now they are one of the big mental health providers for mental health in San Mateo County, which is Silicon Valley. But she started as a 16-year-old single mum with a special needs kid, working in the shite end of the racing industry, working on the track. She knows she's paid her dues. And Joelle, she's one of my great heroes, but she really has all the pieces, I feel. And she's spoken alongside people like Dr. Stephen Peters and so on before. But I'd recommend her to you. Anyway, that's
Okay, great.
If you're a horse nerd, and if you're on this podcast, I'm guessing you are, then you've probably also always wondered a little bit about the old master's system of dressage training. If you go and check out our Helios Harmony program, we outline there step by step exactly how to train your horse from the ground to become the dressage horse of your dreams in a way that absolutely serves the physical, mental, and emotional well-being of the horse and the rider. Intrigued? Like to know more? Go to our website, heliosharmony.com. Check out the free introduction course. Take it from there.
I wanted to mention too is that we do have an innovative, and I know this might be dated because this is going to be on YouTube, but currently
means it's evergreen, not dated.
Yes, excuse me. Yes, evergreen is one of our favorite words. Yeah. And we have an innovative grant that's due December 5th that is all about the horses and just horses. So that's something that we're trying to also bring about, that we want to not only do, like I said, when we do a call for human side, we want people to look at the horse side, but we also are trying to do things for horses strictly. And part of this innovative grant, it's in honor of this great man who passed away, about broke my heart. He was on our board, Dr. Mark Chrisman, who worked for Zoetis Equine. And Zoetis helped us with this grant by sponsoring it with $5,000. And then we raised the other $5,000 from other people, friends of Mark's, or those who are just excited about horses. But part of that is that the project is really based on the 5 domains and how to incorporate that 5 domains and techniques or application with daily assessment of equines. So how do you implement those 5 domains, and how can you make sure that you're kind of assessing that? So that's part of the 10,000 innovative grant for this year, 2026. But I'm sure we'll be having, in 2025, getting ahead of myself, but I'm sure we'll have some in 2026 too. We haven't made a decision yet about what our big grant will be for, but we'll have right now, our plan is to have 150,000 for a big grant for horses and humans, and another 10,000 for innovative in 2026.
Right. So let's look ahead. In a perfect world, right, you would be sitting on some millions, and you'd be able to give grants that are much more significant that way. How do you envisage growing towards that point? And then how do you, once you get to that point, and I'm sure you will, because I've watched you guys grow, and I can absolutely see the day clearly when Pebbles is, giving £1 million to somebody.
I love it.
And I mean, and I'll be so on the sidelines pom-pomming.
Thank you.
Because we need this. Where these things get tricky, as you know, is that kind of money can end up being very much sequestered by the academics. And then it gets ivory towered rather than looking to those people that are doing the really innovative stuff. I'll put myself out there for that. When we were first new on the scene, I mean, the sort of existing powers that be, because they're still there within the therapeutic riding thing, just tried to blow us out of the water. They reacted with hostility. It was shocking, actually. As an autism dad, it's like, wow, you're supposed to care about people like my son. You don't care about people like my son. You actually just care about, oh, okay, good to know. Right. Now that you're a gatekeeper, and at a certain point you're going to be passing that hat to another gatekeeper, how are you going to ensure that when you reach that point of giving those really big grants, which, let's face it, the field needs, because also the more money, the more legitimization, right? People
Right.
are very impressed by, multi-million-dollar grants. How are you going to ensure that the cutting edge, that the innovative, that the small person doing something kind of cool over there doesn't get like bumped out?
I think part of it is, and like if I were to, if we had this philosophical discussion, like if we received $1 million, would, just for grant making, would we just give out $1 million grant? I think it might be helpful, yeah, if we did a large grant, but I don't want to, we want to make sure that we support people coming through academics who are working on their PhD. I would love to have funds that I could do scholarships for people working on their dissertation and have a smaller grant fund for them, or have those smaller grants for innovative studies. So I don't want to put everything in one bread basket. I really feel like we need to have like multiple grants, multiple sizes.
I agree.
So we don't like blow people out
But
of the
we
water.
also
But
don't
I
want it
think,
all to be in academia, right? Because what the
I think,
academics are doing is they're measuring the stuff that innovative people are already doing. Like
right,
good science follows good practice, right?
correct.
Rather
And I
than
think
someone
part
just
of
saying,
it,
I've got a theory and I want to prove it.
yeah, and I think part of it is the culture. We're really working on a culture where people work together. And that's why part of it is we want people from multi disciplines to work together. So it's not just in the equine studies or not just in the exercise physiology. Like they work together to come out with the best income for everybody, not just that one area.
Right. I mean,
So
I'd put myself forward for this with the podcast that I'm doing right now with you. Just full disclosure, lads, those of you who are listening or watching, Horseboy Foundation, which is us, has never received a grant from Horses and Humans Research Foundation. Doesn't mean we won't apply at some point. Doesn't mean that Pebbles also might not turn us down at some point. And I might still be friends with her if she does that. But
let me just give you this disclaimer. I don't have a vote.
oh yeah,
I
but
don't.
I'll still be passive aggressive with you. I mean, come on, you don't deny me that opportunity. Um,
Please
but
don't.
you know what I'm saying. So the
Yeah.
whole point I'm bringing this up is that
Yeah.
we created this podcast not just so that we could promote people that do what we do. We are always actively looking for people who do something else that's cool. What can we learn? Right.
And we're not in our own little bubble. That's the thing that's
And
great about
protecting
you.
our
Yeah,
innocence.
and protecting. We want to share. We want to help everybody. I kind of say sometimes, and I don't know if this would float in Europe or not, that we're Switzerland, because we don't are not vested in a certain breed. I'm not invested in a certain discipline. I'm not invested in a certain organization. I'm neutral. We're just here to help everybody through
That's what
education and
Switzerland's always
research.
said. Well, it sits on the money. That's why everybody hates them. Sorry, I'm just. But I
So
think you're a little bit
I
better than
didn't know.
Switzerland.
I didn't
But they
know
make
if there
great
was
chocolate. Great chocolate. Yeah.
if there was a European culture piece of that or not. I wish we had a lot of money so I could be like
I think
Switzerland.
you
But
will, though. I've watched you grow from really small beginnings.
uh,
I have every faith that 20 years from now, you'll be giving out multiple grants, much, much bigger, but you won't be the only ones. I think that what will have happened by then is you will have mentored some other organizations to come in and perhaps look after some other areas. And the pool of money as our work becomes more legitimized through the work that you guys have done as well, it just attracts more dosh.
yeah. I
And
will say though, we're the only organization that funds strictly horses and humans.
okay,
There are organizations that do horse research, specific
right,
research, organizations that do multiple animals and horses are included, or horses and humans are included in other type of things. But yeah, and I would hope that I'm hoping that that time clock is a little faster. Like I'm
It would
hoping
be
that,
nice, wouldn't it?
yeah, in the next couple of years, we have enough funds to be able to do multiple grants because I'm going to need more staff because right now I'm the only full-time staff. Terry Boggs is our operations manager. She's been with the organization for 20 years, does a fabulous job. She does all the grant applications and so I'm going to need more staff. So that's going to take some more money, but all of our funds go strictly to grants and operations. So, yeah. And the other thing I need to tell you, which we didn't talk about as far as programs, is the fact that there's not a lot of access to research. So you can go to our website and see the research that we funded, but underneath our research tab, we have a link to our HHRF Science Open collection. So we have working with Science Open and created a place that all for open research that has horse and human interaction as well as equine well-being research articles. So there right now, currently there's 1,158, but that changes daily because there's an algorithm and it updates overnight. But that's open research again that you can go to that collection and search for specific things on, like the first one that I just pulled out was hippotherapy and cerebral palsy. So, or you can look at equine assisted growth and learning model or the effect of hippotherapy with children with cerebral palsy. I just mentioned that. There's different ones depending on what you're looking for, but they're in chronological order as far as when they came out. I think we did it back for 10 years when we started the collection. So that right there is a free resource we're offering to everyone, and everyone around the globe accesses it. I get a monthly report. It's kind of cool to see who is looking at it, which countries.
What do you think is the great neglected or underserved area of equine assisted horses and humans work right now? Like, what do you think if you had a perfect world and you could like say, I'd really like to shine a spotlight there, where would it be?
This is really biased.
Hey, we're all subjective. That's fine.
I really would like to do some big study on Parkinson's.
Okay.
And I would love to do maybe a matching grant if I could get with Michael J. Fox's foundation and do something there. I'd love to do something perhaps even with Christopher Reeve's foundation. They don't fund research, but they could fund the program piece and we could do the research on MS and writing. I'd like to see there's some smaller studies going on with dementia. Personally, I'd like to also see people who have cancer and who are going through remission. Some programs call them like the Pink Ladies, etc. But I think the power of the horse there, I like to see something done with the volunteers. Like, why do people volunteer with equine assisted programs versus their library down the street or the YMCA down the street?
Because you get to hang out with ponies.
Yeah. So what is that pony benefit? Why is that?
I mean, come on. Yeah.
Yeah. So why is that pony helping them in a way that they didn't get it somewhere else?
Exactly.
I talked to a group yesterday that deals with high school students. I know that the barn saved me during high school because I didn't really, just wasn't my thing, but the barn was my play.
I mean, you weren't the homecoming queen?
I was not. Was not.
Actually,
I wasn't the nerd, but I wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so weird, isn't it? Within that middle school and high school experience, which seems to scar people for the next 50 years, unless you fitted one of those prescribed roles, of which there are only like 5, you're kind of effed up.
Well,
and,
I think,
and if you did fit one of those roles, you're also effed up because, yeah.
I didn't learn. I wasn't that traditional learner. I was
Yeah.
experiential learner, and I was stuck in this desk, and that just
Mm,
wasn't thriving for me.
mm.
The barn was. It was experiential learning on its desk. But I would love to do a study as far as like why kids, and it keeps you out of trouble, like the discipline that you learn, the responsibility working with horses versus maybe basketball or field hockey or football or whatever. And, what are there any differences in
There
those
are.
sport and those
Shall I
sports?
shall I throw my 2 cents in there?
Go
Because
ahead.
okay, so if you read the old masters from the real old master, the first old master is a guy called Kikuli, who's writing in 1350, I think, BC in Nineveh in Babylon. And that's how we get our first exercises and flying changes and things like that. But it's very fragmented what we have from him because it was written on clay tablets that shattered. So people have pieced together what they can piece together. But the first full text that we know is Xenophon. And
Mm,
that's quite a lot later, actually. It's 400 BC. So it's thousands of years actually after the whole riding dressage system, got established. And he's learning it because Xenophon's Athenian, but he goes to Persia as a mercenary, and he ends up on the losing side, and he has to get home. And he learns all his horsemanship and all his cavalry stuff there, and he brings it back to Athens. He survives, and he writes a book. And what he says is if you really want to get control of yourself emotionally, particularly as a hot-headed young adult, training horses to a high level is a really good way to do this. Because if you lose control of your emotions, you lose the horse. You could
mm,
lose your life, and you certainly won't get the job done. And he emphasizes, even though he's a mercenary, he emphasizes kindness. So
mm.
interesting. And he then goes on to become, okay, so there's other reasons why Xenophon is famous. He's also
Right.
some people say he's the founder of Stoic philosophy. Other people say he's not, but let's say he's a philosopher. And he's best mates with who? His best friend is Plato, and they are both students of who? They're both students of Socrates. So you've got this dude coming out saying, lads, if you want to get control of your shit, you might want to look at this kind of horse training thing because it will force you to get out of your own ass. And then much later, you have Pluvinel, Antoine de la Pluvinel, in Renaissance Baroque France, writing about the same time that Shakespeare is writing. And he says to the French king, you know what, sire? Our aristocracy is out of control. Our young men just kill each other in duels, which means that the economics of the estates that they inherit just get fragmented, and that's not good for anybody. And then if they survive that, what do? They go on to fight either religious wars or civil wars against the crown. We are never going to rival Spain, our neighbor to the south, where I happen to be sitting right now,
Yeah.
with all that money coming in from the Americas, unless we can get control of our ruling class. What I propose, sire, is that we set up 4 schools within France of horsemanship for young aristocrats to chill them the F out and get them to actually get away from their own egos a little bit. And the French king
Mm,
goes for it. And that's why we have all of these French words. That's why we have dressage and piaffe and passage and renvers and travers and all these words, right? It's because they kind of put a nationalistic stamp on it, even though the thing is actually invented like thousands of years earlier in where Asia meets Europe. So what's interesting with what you're saying is that there is a long-standing tradition of horsemanship in the humanities, which I think hasn't been looked at for a while.
yes.
Right. And when you're dealing with like at-risk youth, gang youth,
Yes.
people survive. The lady I talked about earlier, Joelle Dunlap, Square Peg Foundation, big with autism, but where she cut her teeth was with runaway prostitutes from the Tenderloin in in San Francisco and dealing with these girls bringing their gang fights into the arena. And she had to step in a couple of times when people were genuinely trying to kill each other and say, listen, we're trying to help a pony out here. Can we not, you know, look at something else? And they did. So I'm wondering if that thing with, horses and humans and the humanities, have you got anything up your sleeve with that, or are you just looking at it, or, yeah?
Well, no, I love that whole concept about kindness, because I feel like in this world right now, we're missing kindness and empathy.
So true.
In this country, especially. But I would love to do something. And, that's why I'm like, when you ask me which research, I'm like, oh, I'd love to, they just taking the Mustangs out of prison.
I just heard this myself.
And I'm so sad about that, because I would
sad.
love to have research on that. I would love to have like foster kids and horses. If I had $1 billion, I'd set up a ranch right now and have a foster kid program, because those kids fall through the system and it's horrible. I think
I'm wishing $1 billion on you right now. Watch.
Okay, thank you.
There it goes.
$1 billion. So we could put those kids on a ranch and have that environment to be able to be out.
We need 10 of those ranches in every state.
Oh my gosh, we do. And it's, going back to like just the whole fact that people get involved with drugs and alcohol. Like if they just were at the barn with horses, it would just be a different world.
What do you mean alcohol? Sorry. You've got against something. But this is organic.
But it's just like that purpose. But there's so many different research studies that we could do how horses help all different types of populations. But number one, I think we also need to go back to researching the horse. And I think behavior is one thing, looking at that and help. But also, if you were looking at programs too, I think equine assisted learning, which right now is hard in at least this country, because we can't decide on a definition. We don't know what exactly it is. Is it coaching? Is it education? Is it this or is it that? Who's qualified? Who has the criteria? And I don't think are specific things that are kind of
right, because education by its very definition is a very broad term, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, when I was at St. Andrews University, we used to call it therapeutic riding. It was a degree in that, but I was like, no, we're going to do horsemanship, because I want them to know all about horses, not just riding. It needs to be all encompassing. And I think we're missing a little bit of that too with our current riding programs, because, we had to brush our horse, get them ready, untack them, take care of them. You got in trouble if you had sweat marks on them. Like you had to take care of your horse. But now you just show up to the barn and you get on your horse, and you do a lesson and you're out of there. And I think we're missing that whole, there's many articles about the barn rats. We used to hang out all day Saturday at the barn. We
all did. What's so weird about that is that, of course, we've entered into a conversation which probably needed to happen, of those of us who were barn rats sometimes got abused. However, I would say that when those situations came my way, I could discern better in a barn situation than I could in, say, a school situation or a choir situation or other things institutions that I was put into. Because the horse always gave one perspective, right? The horse, like dogs or whatever, would very quickly pick up on if things were not cool. And if one looked to one's horse, if one looked to one's dog, one could often have a great barometer as a vulnerable tween that maybe this is not so cool. Whereas in, say, choir or rugby club or wherever, there might not have been that barometer. animal intelligence, animal emotional intelligence. I think, what I was trying to get to there with Xenophon and Pluvinel and these guys was they're really talking about emotional intelligence, right? They're saying,
Yeah.
right, what I would be very excited to see with Horses in Humans Research Foundation is explorations into emotional intelligence, human and horse. Because I do think that, well, I don't think I think you and I both know, and I think most of the people we're preaching to the choir here, I think most of the viewers and listeners know that a lot of our emotional intelligence we got from horses and dogs, and perhaps wildlife as well, if we were lucky enough to be around those. When it's just humans, it's a tall order because you don't have that neutral, what's the word, dispassionate, not looking at coming down in favor of one or the other emotionally. Horses are so amazing that way because we've used them to commit acts of great sociopathic atrocity on each other. Conquest happened on the back of a horse, ships as well.
Yeah.
But the horse didn't go out there saying, you know what I want to do? I want to kill everybody, these monkeys, from the Pacific to the Mediterranean. Let's say you're in Mongolia, in the 14th century under, Genghis Khan or something. Yeah, the horse, like, I don't know, there's this monkey on top and, I'm supposed to go there and I'm supposed to go there. They lend you their power, but you could use the horse to heal in the same way that you can use the horse to harm. The horse is an innocent in that. However, I think we all know which one the horse would prefer. I think if you interviewed a horse and like put the microphone and said, "So, Equus, would you rather go into a storm of meat cleavers?" And admittedly, you love your human and you're inured to this and you're brave. Would you rather do that, or would you rather help that kid over there have a nice time?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we know what they'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. Or go eat grass. Maybe they don't even want to view it a human.
Maybe a bit of both.
Yeah.
I think back to my son, Rowan, when he was still nonverbal, and he would learn about life by sitting very, very, very close to horses and goats, because that's what we happen to have, and watching them eat and commenting on how they ate. And like he would get down on his haunches and really look and really comment on the noises and the rhythm and why did they eat that thing but not that thing, and the detail of it. So as you say, the horse can just graze and he's still going to heal us.
Yeah, and open your mind to a whole new experience.
100%. All right. Wow. So listen, Pebbles, how do people contact you? How do people have the honor of being turned down by you when they submit their research? Talk us through what the process is. I know you've got big grants, little grants, innovative grants, and so on. So people obviously are listening to this and they're going to think, okay, I'd like to put in a grant to Pebbles and Horses in Humans Research Foundation. How do they do it? Where should they do it? What's the mechanism?
Okay, so typically we have our call for our big grant in February or March, and it's due in the middle of the summer.
Okay.
And the reason being is most of our scientific advisors are involved in higher education, so they're off, so they have time to evaluate those grants. And then we do our innovative grant call early summer around June. Sorry, I'm using terms that not everybody's on the same season. So it's in June or July, and it's usually due in December.
Okay.
Because it's so small, it's a smaller one. It's easier for them to go through. And so, for example, I'm almost ready to award our $150 grant. We have the paperwork signed. We're just waiting on them to get their IRB completed.
What's an IRB?
It's basically, it's kind of an ethical board for anybody who's doing research needs to get their grant approved and make sure that you're not doing anything
Right. The ethics committee.
unethical, yeah, on people. And then there's the IACUC, which is all about the animals. So they're just ethic boards for
So,
research.
lads listening to this, watching this, you're going to have to jump through some hoops. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah. And on our website, horsesandhumans.org, under the research tab, we have the grants, we have how to fill it out, we have a video that explains how to fill it out. All of that information is right there for you. And then the way you contact me is my email address is ceo@horsesandhumans.org.
CEO@horsesandhumans.org.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you ready, lads? Submit your proposals. Sorry, Pebbles, you might get a few more now after this podcast.
That's great. We want great applications. We really want research that's going to be groundbreaking. We're all about rigorous research and making sure that we build upon each other. I mean, if you look at our research and how many times it's been cited, that's the purpose of good research, is so that it's built upon. But I don't want to say I think that research that doesn't really, it's not, I don't want to say fail, because it's really difficult to say fail. It's really that you learn not to do this. But problem is,
one thing builds upon another thing.
Yeah, but we don't.
We climb up on the bodies of our dead.
Yeah. But we don't discuss things that don't work. Why don't we? So somebody else doesn't do that. Like, why don't we talk about things that we could improve? Or if this doesn't work, let me share it with you, Bruce, so you don't do this, because I went down this path and it was wrong. So that's one of our projects that we hope to have, is some place that we could have like a.
You know what I would love to see with that, which is a path that I think we have all gone down in the horse world, and it's been wrong. It's factionalism. Mm-hmm. Anybody listening to this or watching this knows that there are certain things that hate Horseboy, and there are hostilities that, because we're dealing with humans here, we're dealing with monkeys. I don't think that should be rewarded. Now, that's an easy thing to say, because how do you judge? How do you discern? But I do think that when the only way one can discern is if there seems to be an attempt to shut out a certain population or a certain group. For example, there are entities within the therapeutic riding community that I feel could be better, and that I've certainly come under attack from.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wish them to be knocked out of the game, because I do see a bigger picture here. I know that some of the practitioners, many of the practitioners who've come up under those, let's say, hostile to me entities, have still actually been able to engage in really meaningful dialogue with us. And we've been able to advance our whole field that way. So it's really about the advancing of the field. One of the things that I feel is that we'll all be dead, relatively soon, actually, on the scale of things. I mean, if you look at, the Cretaceous era, that's relatively recent. If you look at the Baroque era, that's like really recent. If you look at World War II, that's like yesterday.
Yeah.
So trying to be right isn't the point here, right? The point is trying to advance the field. So what I would love to see is cross-cultural, cross-disciplinary stuff being rewarded, where people start to think, instead of thinking about scarcity, instead of people thinking about, if I get, I'm this organization, and, if I get a grant from Horses and Humans, then I'm legitimized, and that like delegitimizes those people over there. If there was always a cross-cultural piece, a interdisciplinary piece required in every grant application, like who are you working with? Who are you working with that might even have a slightly opposing vision to you? And what are you doing with those people to advance the field? Then we know the field will accelerate, right? But if we stay within our own silos,
Yeah. That's what we're hoping for, is that we have lots of people from different departments working together.
Well, I'll certainly do my damnedest to help that along.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
And just for the record, anyone who's listening to this, even those entities that have, thrown a bit of poo at us, or scarcity, like if these people get money, then I won't get money. But I think we just got to move beyond that. We got to move beyond that. So I will gladly back any study coming in from people that might have taken a not so sympathetic view to us, because hell, does it matter? We just need to advance the field.
Right. Exactly.
Good. All right. So Pebbles, thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you. It's so much fun talking with you. We need to do it more often.
Yeah, I'd love to. Here's a suggestion. Why don't we do, after this podcast, a little YouTube series?
Ooh.
Where we just kind of get to dream and explore.
Oh, that'd be exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
I like dreaming and exploring.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing, actually.
I like it.
Okay. All right. We'll do it. So stand by, lads. We're going to do this with Pebbles.
Yeah. 2026 goals.
Okay. Because Pebbles, I'm pointing at her here because she's to the right of me, but I don't know if she's there on your screen. She might be like there or there. She's very cool. I was just we were both at an event in Missoula, Montana, the Equus Film Festival. And I would say that Pebbles was one of the unifying influences there. And this we got to have. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Much respect. Hats coming off. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we all need to work together to make this place a better place.
Yeah. And if we don't, what are we doing? Like, why are we even here?
Yeah.
Why don't we just go off and become like divorce lawyers or something? I mean, like, why put our energy into something like this if we just want to fight with each other?
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
So till the next time, Ja Rastafari, thank you so much. One last time, the website and your contact.
It's Horses and Humans Research Foundation. And then my email is ceo@horsesandhumans.org.
Okay, perfect. So get your grant applications in, lads, and let's see what you got.
And attend one of our webinars and check out our YouTube channel because we have lots of educational content there.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll see you there.
I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did. If you like what we're doing here, please do like, subscribe, tell a friend. It so helps us to get this valuable work done and the message of equine assisted stuff out there. And if you're interested in more conversations, you might want to check out our Live Free, Ride Free podcast. And if you'd like to support the podcasts, please go to rupertisaacson.com and click on the Patreon link. If you're a professional in the equine assisted field or are considering a career in the equine assisted field, you might want to check out our 3 certification programs: Horseboy Method, Movement Method, and Takhin Equine Integration. You can find all of those over on newtrailslearning.com. And finally, if you want to check out our cool rock and roll themed merch, back on rupertisaacson.com, please click on shop. You'll find all kinds of fun goodies there. And if you're looking for a way to spend time until the next podcast, you might want to consider reading the books that kicked all this off: The Horse Boy, The Long Ride Home, and The Healing Land. So see you next time on Equine Assisted World. Join us for the adventure.